welcome everyone to our Dhamma study. Today is Sunday, the 18th of February 2024, and this is our fourth lecture. I know there's a lot of things to be covered. I try to elaborate what mentioned in the curriculum based on the framework of the elementary level of Dhamma study. But, even though the program called elementary, it doesn't mean that what we learn here in this first level before you move to the intermediate and advanced, it doesn't mean that this level is the easiest. Okay, please don't look at the Dhamma that way. Okay, hope you still remember the benefit of study Dhamma. At least 5 things that you will get benefit every time you listen to the Dhamma. You will hear something that you may never heard before. And I believe today is the same thing. You may hear something that you never heard before. Second, even though you hear this subject before, you will understand differently. And the third one, you have clear and calm and happy mind when you listen to the Dhamma, because we're talking about something peaceful, something beneficial. And also you will have a chance to clarify your doubt of the Dhamma that you may have before. And the last one is a chance for us to adjust the view, the right view toward life. Having the right view is, to me, is very crucial to understand the true nature of things, the true nature of life, what causes suffering to our life, what causes happiness to our life. Having the right view is the starting point of having a good life. Oppositely, if you have the wrong view, that's the starting point of destruction life. Whatever we understand, our thinking will follow. If our view toward meditation, that meditation is unbeneficial, your thinking will be following the same direction. So I shouldn't practice meditation. Oh, sila, observing precept, make no benefit. If your view, toward that way, your thinking also will follow that. Oh, I shouldn't be observing precept. So view is very important. The first thing on the list of the Eightfold Path start from having the right view. You need to build the right view first. And how can you build the right view if you don't study Dhamma? So study Dhamma is the foundation, is the starting point to help adjust view. And then when your right view is being built and is being secure, it's like a guarantee that you walk down the right path. And when it's come to study Dhamma, keep in mind that Dhamma has 3 levels, right? You study the theory, you put into the practice, and you must realize it yourself. Ehi pasiko, you must realize it yourself. And also, each Dhamma that we learn, each one of them also have layer. When we talk about precept is not just, oh, I don't kill, don't lie. There are also a layer of precept. First, you need to make an effort to observe precept. And that's the first step. It's good, but it's hard for me. So I need to make an effort to observe precept. So this is the level of precept. That's good. While you make an effort, you start walk down the path of happiness. You will not do anything bad verbally and physically. And eventually it's become, you feel a little bit more comfortable of observing precept. When the mosquito bite you, at the beginning, you may want to kill it. And after a few months, you may feel like, okay, I'm just gonna be patient and let it go. You don't even think of harming that little mosquito that bite you. And later on, the highest level of precept, you and the precept become one. I am a man of precept. I will not break precept, no matter what situation in my life. So you see, there are layers of precept. You have to slowly build up. But first, how can you build it if you don't study what the concept of precept, what involved in the 5 precepts, what involved in the 8 precepts, right? Get excited every time you have a chance to listen to the Dhamma. It's always beneficial. Before we continue for today's topic, let's give ourselves a chance for a short meditation first. All right, you may take a good deep breath and softly open up your eyes. All right, welcome everyone back. Okay. And today is the fourth lecture of the Dhamma subject. That means we have 11 weeks to go. Hope everyone still have energetic mind to continue and to finish the class together. So today will be the last lecture that we'll be talking or discussing about the Dhamma group number 3. And next week we move on the Dhamma group number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10. We'll get to the number 10 at the end of the 15 weeks. That's the idea of the elementary level. To me, when I bring up some subject, I want to show you where did this come from, how they related to what we learned in the previous lecture, and how can we put them into practice. So we may spend time on this topic more than that topic. It depends on my view toward this subject to you as a student. If anything you feel too deep, don't understand, you can go back and relearn. And I will have the reference at the end of the lecture so you can check more sutra if you like to go deeper, study on your own pace. That's how I see it. Okay? And before we go further, we will recap what we learned. So this is the fourth week, okay, the Dhamma Group 3, Part 3, on Sunday, 18 February 2024. What we have been learning so far are these things. I hope you still remember. Of the Dhamma Group 3, not Group 2, okay? We learn Hiri Ottappa, we learn Sati Sampachanya, we learn Khanti Soraja. That's the Dhamma Group 2 on the first week. But when we move on the Group 3, this is what we have been learning so far. We learn the concept of the triple gems, the Buddha gem, the Dhamma gem, the Sangha gem, why they're important, why they become the core pillar of Buddhist communities. So you need to know that. The quality, the virtue of the Buddha, the character of the Dhamma, okay, and who is the Sangha, how many kind of Sangha. And then the instruction of the Buddha, which summarized into 3 things. This is summarized from the Ovata Patimokkha. The Buddha gave this instruction to 1,250 Arahant before they go back to wherever they're from to spread the Dhamma. Not to do all evil, to embrace or to do good, and to purify one's mind. For us, this is very simple translation, very simple, summarized, and easy to grasp and easy to understand. But we should know where this teaching comes from too. Before someone can come up with this simple instruction, to me, I really appreciate the teaching of the Buddha because this involves a lot of things. For example, the law of karma are hinted in here. It's hinted in here, right? There's a law of karma which is related to the wholesome and unwholesome root. There's the karma, there's a defilement that cause us to do bad karma, and that bad karma will be kept in the mind and force us to do the bad action, verbally, physically, and mentally. And with that, it will become the result, the vipaka, the result. So we reap what we sow. We do good, we get good. We do bad, we get bad. But the Buddha did not mention the law of karma here. It's going to be time consuming to explain. It's going to be difficult for many new monks or the lay people to understand what is the law of karma. But if you do these 3 things, most likely you'll be safe. Not to do bad, you find way to do good, and purify one's mind. Purify one's mind is dealing with defilement in the mind, right? So not to do evil, to do good. There's a lot of things that behind this that you need to understand. But if we go quickly, we just memorize, the Buddha teaches this thing. Don't do bad, do good, meditation. That's how I have been taught, okay, as a young age. And I don't know where it's from. I don't know how this thing is so important. And sometimes I don't even know what is meant by the good and the bad that the Buddha wants me to know. And as we go deeper, we get to know that, there is the root cause of unwholesome, or we call the 3 root of unwholesome, which is lobha or greed, dosa, hate, and the moha, delusion, and also avijja or ignorance. The guy behind the scene, the big boss, is behind this, which is did not mention here. They're just by default there. But students like us, we should know that, there's the big boss behind this. There's an ignorance, there's avijja. Avijja, from avijja stem from to be greed, to be hate, and to be delusion. And whatever action that come from these 3 defilements, we will end up suffering. no doubt about it. But if the action that come from opposite, come from alopa, dosa, moha, non-greed, non-hate, and non-delusion, it will yield the happiness, not dukkha. This is how we learn. This is how we analyze. This is how we think. We not just, oh, okay, three things, memorize it. Hopefully it will be appears in the exam and I will pass. So you need to kind of develop that kind of attitude when you learn the Dhamma. And the Buddha also explained the good and the bad, which is this one. Actually, he mentioned this in the first teaching in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. But most students, we may not realize that it's already there. The Buddha talked about the kamma, kaya kamma. Because human being, we can take kamma, we can do kamma in three ways, right? To the body, to the speech, and to the mind. Kaya kamma, body action. Vaci kamma, okay, the verbal action. And the mano kamma, the mind action. Okay. I will not test you in the Pali, about Pali in the exam, but I need to mention this. Because when you study by yourself, when you study the Buddhist text, it's almost unavoidable to encounter the Pali terms. So it's good to start familiar with these terms at the beginning level. Okay, but I will put the meaning in English, so you know what it is. And if you hear often, by default, you will know what it is. Okay, kamma. Kaya is body, vaci is speech, mano is the mind. Okay, it will be automatically memorized. So this is the bad, and this is the good, taught by the Buddha. Bodily action, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct is bad. But for us, killing is impossible. Why don't we say harming? Harming others is bad, right? As a monk, we're not allowed to kill. As a good Buddhist, we don't kill. But sometimes we harm others, physically, verbally, and mentally. So like this, if you see literally by word, it means killing, right? Killing means taking life. But we not just go around and kill people or kill animal. But sometimes we have a tendency, we have agitated mind, okay, to harm people. And that's something you can take the sila a bit further. Like I said, there are layers to it. So these two items, the body and speech, they group into the sila or the precept. Sila cannot control the mind. The mind need to develop through the meditation or the loving kindness or the mindfulness practice. But the body and speech, we can use precept. If we observe 5 precepts, these are the 4 precepts already. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, right? These are false speech, slanderous speech, derisive speech, and nonsense speech. These already, we're familiar with this. These are the 5 precepts. Just one thing missing here, which is intoxicant, right? Consume intoxicant that crowded your mind. And for the mind part, okay, covetousness, that come from greed, the evil or payabhat, come from hate, and the wrong will. The reason we have wrong will is because of delusion. Delusion, you think of the darkness. We don't see things the way they are. We don't see things clearly. That's why we make wrong decision. You see, sila, samadhi, panya already here. Okay, the sila development, the mind development, and the panya or wisdom development, they already here. So this is the summary of the Eightfold Path in different form. I don't know whether you can see it the way I see it. This is how we link the Dhamma that we learn together. We cannot get out of the frameworks of the Eightfold Path, whatever the Dhamma that we learn, because every single Dhamma that we learn, it will lead us to the liberation of the mind, the freedom of mind from suffering. And oppositely, this consider the good, right? If you don't kill, you don't steal, no sexual misconduct, you speak correctly, and you have no greed, no ill will, you have the right view. This consider the good, right? But also there are detail to this. But at least you see what the Buddha means by doing good, not doing bad, and purify the minds. This is what we have been discussing, and we also talking about this, the way of making merit. We talk about the concept of merit or punya, okay, and we're talking about the concept of demerit or papa or bab in Thai. The punya and the papa, you need to know what it is. Okay, it's not just merit, not just doing good, not just pick up the garbage, not just sweep the floor. The merit to the land of Buddhism has deep meaning. When Buddhist people hear the word merit, they feel joy, they feel rapture, they feel elation, they feel blissful. That's the merit, that's the energy, the positive energy that happen every time we think good, do good, and say good. And in short, from 10 way of making merit, coming down to 3 way, which is this one: you give, you observe precept, and you purify the mind. And you need to understand these two things go together. How can you, what is the antidote for greed? What is the antidote for dosa or hate? What is the antidote for moha or delusion? The answer is here. Right? That's why the Buddha said, if you remember nothing, you just continue to give, continue to observe precept, and continue to purify your mind through meditation. And he did not explain much. But in fact, what you are doing, according to, if you follow his teaching, you actually working on this guy. You lessen or slowly remove the power of lopa, dosa, and moha from your mind until one day, you will be able to remove them completely. And when that happens, you will realize the ultimate happiness, which is nibbana, right? But for now, we don't even know what nibbana is. If we take the teaching of the Buddha seriously, we just he make the Dhamma practice simple, just following this pattern, this framework, just to give, to observe precept, and to purify your mind through meditation and mindfulness practice. And today we will continue with this. Number one, we will talk about the unfailing practice, or Apannaka. Apannaka means it's a sure course. It's a sure practice that if you following this practice, it's a sure way that lead you to Nibbana, to be happy. And the second, we'll be talking about the Trilakkhana. Again, Trilakkhana is a Pali term. Apannaka is a Pali term. Trilakkhana means the three common or universal characteristics of things, of conditioned things. So this may be new to some of us here, but it's okay. We're here to learn. Even though you learned it before, today to see if you will get something new out of this topic that you think that you know. This is what the Dhamma Group 3 that we'll be covering in our series of lecture. So I will not continue for the Dhamma Group 3. We will finish today, and next week we start the Dhamma Group 4. So far, if you have any question, okay, you can write it down. You can type into the chat box. Okay, at the end, I will, hopefully we have time to answer that question. With that being said, we will start the lecture today of the new topic. I sent you the file already. You can keep that, save it somewhere as your reference in case you cannot make note of all of this that appears on the screen. For the Dhamma Group 3, Part 3, today we'll be learning the Trilakkhana. Tri means three. The common is a universal, common or universal characteristic. Lakkhana means characteristic of things. Usually you hear the word things, but to be specific, it should be said the condition things. It's not just the thing. And the second one, we'll be talking about the Apannaka Dhamma, the sure course, the sure practice for us to be happy. Start from number one, the Trilakkhana first. The teaching of the Buddha, if you pay close attention, you may realize that the Buddha did not create or invent anything. What he teach us is something, is the thing that he discovered. It's already there. It's the law of nature. He mentioned whether I exist or not. These things already here. This thing point to what? Point to the law of nature. They're already here, but we just don't know that. We born, we get ill, we get old, we die. This is the nature of thing. You think of the fire. The nature of the fire is hot, right? If you touch it, if you burn your hand, the character of the water is cold, it's cohesive. That's the nature of the water, whether the water in Thailand, the water in the US, the water in China, the same character. That's why it's called universal law of nature, universal law of the nature of things. The Trilakkhana is similar to this. We learn the law of gravity, right? When we take scientific class, the science class that discovered by Isaac Newton, everyone noticed that the fruit is falling off the tree. mangoes, apple, you name it. When the time is right, when the condition is right, that fruit will fall. And who make it fall? Nobody. When the condition is right, it will fall. It's the law of nature. When the condition is right, we will born. Human will born. When the condition is right, that human will die. Who make us die? Nobody, right? It's the condition of thing. It's the law of nature. It has to be like that. Nobody lasts forever. This is a painful truth. Isaac Newton discovered that, hey, there's why apple fall down the tree and hit my head, because his mind was so focused. This is called meditation. When you in deep meditation, sometimes you get to the wisdom, the intuitive wisdom. You understand something that you never understand before. It happened to me many times. Sometimes in the morning, after a nice meditation, all of a sudden a good idea come up, and this is something that I have been figured out in the past week. I didn't know how to understand this. I didn't know how this works, and all of a sudden I know the moment that I come out of that meditation. So his mind was occupied by, he tried to figure out something, and he got the answer why this apple hit his head, and he come up with the law of gravity. The object will fall, right? It depends on the size, depends on the space between the ground, and the roof, or the height of the distance where the object will fall. There's energy involved, but it will fall. Whether you throw this apple off the roof in New York, in Bangkok, or in Singapore, same thing happen. It's the law of nature. Nothing magical. But how many people actually have that sharp sense of observation? Why nature act like that? Why nature behave like that? The Prince Siddhartha have the same character. He observed that why people get old, why people get ill, why people die. Where did we come from? What am I doing here? Where am I going after I die? He start asking questions to himself, all kind of questions that seem to be mundane question for all of us. We don't even think. We born, we old, we die. That's what happened to our ancestors, and it will happen to us too. And we don't think beyond that. Is there any cure for that? Any solution for that? This is how smart people think. It's a law of nature. So the Trilakkhana, same thing. It's the law of nature that the Buddha discovered. He mentioned himself clearly. Almost 3,000 years ago, he said, whether the Buddha arise in this world or not, the persist, that law, that Dhamma, that stable principle of the Dhamma, that fixed mean what? It's unchangeable of Dhamma. Technical term is called Dhamma Niyama. This is another deep topic. If you like, check it out. It's not easy topic. It's good to know. This is how the Buddha discovered the law of karma. So he said whether he arise or not, they exist. In this case, in this particular sutra, Apannaka Sutra, he points specifically to this law. What law? He said the Buddha awake to this what? To this law of nature, and realize it, that all conditioned things are anicca. Okay, maybe a new term for some of us. Anicca, I will explain in a moment. Okay, for now, anicca is impermanent. All conditioned things are dukkha, or suffering. But it's not just a regular suffering that we understand. All things are anatta, or not self. That even more difficult to understand, to grasp the idea of non-self. But this is what the Buddha discovered. I realized it. And then he said, a realized one, that's another name for the Buddha, the Tathagata, the awakened one, the teacher, the realized one, point to the Buddha. The Buddha understand this refer to what? This refer to this law of nature, this Dhamma. And he comprehend it. Then he explain, he teach, he asserts, he establishes, he clarifies, he analyzes, and he review it. That's what he did. He did not create. He did not invent. He discovered and he shared with us, hey guys, this thing happened, this thing exists. You may think of some other law that the Buddha discovered, like the law of karma. He did not create it. You do good, you get good. You do bad, you get bad. It's nothing magical. Think of the law of causalities, the itappacayata, paticca samuppabbada, the dependent origination. These are the law of cause and effect. You do this, you get this. If you do something that drive by unwholesome root, greed, hatred, delusion, definitely you will end up suffering. And the reason you end up suffering because your action drive by the negative energy. And if you do something oppositely that drive by non-lopa, non-dosa, non-moha, you will be, for sure, your life will be happy and happier. It become wholesome result because drive by that action drive by a wholesome root. Something like this. The Buddha just try to explain to us that this thing exists. Be careful. Be careful. For us, we don't even know they exist, right? We have no idea what it is. What is impermanent? What is suffering? What is not self? Something that's new to many Dhamma students. And this is, you may hear it often. When you go to the funeral in Thailand, you hear the monk chants the Abhidhamma about the Sankhara. Sapphe Sankhara Anicca. Sapphe Sankhara Anicca. That means all Sankhara are impermanent or conditioned thing. This one. Sapphe Sankhara Dukkha. All conditioned thing or Sankharas are unsatisfactory. Sapphe Dhamma Anatta. All Dhammas are not self. So we have no idea what it is. What is Sankhara? What is Dukkha? What is Anatta? What is non-self? But for today, I will keep it simple. Okay, I will point you to some other sutra if you want to study by yourself as well. But I will not go deep because it's going to be another huge topic, and it needs more time to explain. So sapphe sankhara anicca, sapphe sankhara dukkha, sapphe dhamma anatta. Buddhist people be familiar with this. When we go to funeral, we hear it often. Sankhara mean conditioned thing. Okay, conditioned thing. Impermanent conditioned thing are dukkha. I don't translate the word dukkha because dukkha usually translate to suffering, unsatisfactoriness, which is again is not enough. Okay, it's not enough. It doesn't give us enough meaning, full meaning of the word dukkha, all in all dimension. And sapphe dhamma anatta, all dhamma are not self. These things are sometimes people come up to me with all kind of question. For here, just for the food for thought, which I may or may not give you the answer. My question to you is, why in this teaching, the Buddha said sapphe sankhara anicca, sapphe sankhara dukkha, and all of a sudden he said sapphe dhamma anatta. Why didn't he say sapphe sankhara anatta? Why didn't he use the same word, which is sankhara? It will be coherent, right? At the end, he said sapphe dhamma anatta. And that's still a lot of Buddhist scholars, many of them still debate what is meant by Dhamma, Sapphe Dhamma Anatta, or Dhamma is not self. What does it mean? See, this is when you study, you need to develop this kind of mind, the detective mind. Detective mind. Why didn't he use the same word? If he used the same word, that make a lot of sense. It clarifies a lot of things. Sapphe Sankhara Anatta. To me, it make a lot of sense. But when change to the word sapphe dhamma anatta, that's sometimes create confusing. What it mean? What exactly by the dhamma? Does dhamma mean everything? Is everything anatta? Is everything non-self? Okay, this is another debatable topic. I came across one of the book written by the German philosophy. I have it somewhere here. It said the doctrine of the Buddha, and this professor try to explain what it means by non-self through his view. Is there anything else that the Buddha did not explain behind this? It's the thick one, almost 500 pages. Okay, it's not easy to read, but it's, in case you are interested, okay, don't stop yourself here. So in short, the Trilakkhana, Tri again mean three, right? Trilakkhana. From the Pali text, they use the word samma. Oh, I'm sorry, samanya lakkhana. Okay. Saman mean common. Lakkhana mean characteristic. The common or the universal characteristic of all things, all conditioned things. There are three things. That's why they put the word tri in front. Tri mean three. Three universal characteristic of all conditioned thing. When you hear the word condition, what do you think of? Condition mean it cannot exist by itself. It has to be conditioned. Like this body, these five aggregates, they consider conditioned thing. The body and the mind also have to stay together in order for human being to stay alive. And the body itself also conditioned by what? By the four elements: earth, water, wind, and fire. If we don't have these four elements, the body cannot become the body. But because we have these four elements, then the body can become the body according to the law of nature. And with this body and the mind, then we become human being. So these five aggregate is a perfect example for what it means by conditioned thing. If you cannot think of anything else, you can stick with this conditioned thing refer to the body and the mind, right? But keep in mind that the law of nature, this law of nature, the Trilakkhana, is govern all of living thing and non-living thing. The trees, the buildings also fall into this law, right? It's impermanent, number one. I will explain a little bit in a moment. Dukkha, okay, this is second character of the conditioned thing. It will be impermanent. It will be dukkha. It will be anatta or not self or uncontrollable. Okay, start from number one. Anicca, impermanent. Anicca, the definition of anicca is rise and fall, moment to moment, moment to moment. It's anicca. It's keep on changing. So English vocabulary, common vocabulary that they use, they call impermanent. But when you hear the word impermanent, I want you to understand deeper that whatever impermanent, that means that thing keep changing moment to moment. Even 1 second, it cannot stay like that. Human body, according to the scientific discovery, 300 million cells die every minute. The moment that we breathe in and breathe out, 300 million cells die every single minute. So that means our nail, our teeth, our hair today is not the same as yesterday. But we don't see the changes because it's just yesterday and today. But if you look at your picture 10 years ago, you notice that a lot of change happening. Your hair turned gray, have more wrinkle, your face doesn't look bright as before when you were young. They are hidden in there, but they keep on happening without a clear notification. We don't know it right away, but we have to wait. But we know that it's happening. It's instability, it's inconstancy, the condition of arising, deteriorating, and disintegrating, moment to moment. That's anicca. And this applies to non-living being too. It's anicca. The thing of the tree, the buildings, they're all changing moment to moment. I will connect the dot for you in a moment. Let's go to the second one, the second term called dukkha, the second characteristic of the conditioned thing called dukkha. Dukkha usually translates to suffering, but in this case, in this law of nature, okay, dukkha doesn't mean headache, stomach ache, body pain. No, but it means something that's unsustainable. You think of this electron and proton that keep spinning very quickly. If anything that moving very fast, that means there's unhappiness there. They cannot remain calm. This is being oppressed. Something's gonna break apart sooner or later. It's being oppressed. That's the idea of dukkha. The building is being oppressed. 1,000 years from now, this building will not be here. It will be gone. It will be collapsed. Right? 100 years from now, none of us will be here. We're going somewhere. 100 years ago, we did not exist. Now we come to exist. Where do we go after we die? We have no idea. But this law of nature, the Buddha discovered, hey, you guys, please don't be careless. You may still think that you are young, you have a long way to go in your life. That's the careless thinking because your life is governed by this law of nature. Every moment, every breath that you take, your body is deteriorating. It changes moment to moment. And it's also being oppressed, okay? The condition of oppression, preventing it from remaining as it is. The internal imperfection of things. This is the internal, the intrinsic, the intrinsic nature of things, of life, of the nature around us. It's become like this. It cannot stay like this forever. And the last, before we go to the last one, this is something I think is important to mention here, because when we study the Four Noble Truths, you will come across the word dukkha again. The Four Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth talk about dukkha. But here in the Trilakkhana, or the common characteristic of nature that the Buddha discovered, he also mentioned the word dukkha. Are they the same or they not the same? The dukkha in the Four Noble Truths focus on living being, on human. But the dukkha in the Trilakkhana, this law of nature, okay, is governed both being and non-being. Okay, being and non-being. It collapsed. The buildings you made by cement or concrete that seem to be very strong, seem to last very long, but it doesn't matter how long it lasts. Is we know for sure that it's gonna collapse. It's gonna fall apart. That's the idea of dukkha. Okay, not just headache, stomach ache, or physical pain. Is being oppressed. I think inside the body, every single cell is being oppressed at the moment. That's why 300 million cells die every month, every 1 minute. It needs to change. It needs to break apart, because all of the cells in the body, they are being oppressed by, they stay by condition. When the condition is right, they have to replenish themselves. They have to die. They have to reborn, and it's ongoing moment to moment until the day we die, non-stop. And another word is called anatta. Another characteristic of conditioned thing is called anatta. This is another confusing word. But today we're going to keep it simple. Okay. The non-self. Sometimes you hear the word not self. What is meant by non-self? I'm here, but you said I'm not here. The condition of things being void of a real abiding self. That's the definition. Still, it's hard to grasp the idea. What it means by being void. No permanent identity in us, in this body and in this mind. Now we come to something that quite deep Dhamma principle to grasp. If you don't meditate, if you just read, no matter how much time you spend on reading, no matter how many books you read, you will not understand what it means by anatta. I'm here, I'm sitting here reading this book, and the book said you are not here. There's no you. So it makes no sense. And there's a reason for that. We are considered an ignorant being. Ignorant being, this is how ignorant people see things. They cling on, they see impermanent thing as permanent. They see suffering as happiness. They see not self as self. They see something not beautiful as beautiful. This is how we see the world. That's what the Buddha teach 2,500 years ago. But for the monk who have developed the mind through the meditation practice to the advanced level, they start understand this. They start grasping this idea that, hey, I have been clinging to this body and mind wrongly for my whole life. If you think of the first teaching, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the discourses on the roaring wheel of the Dhamma, that the Buddha gave the teaching for the first time to the 5 monks. And one monk understand at the end of that teaching, the Kontanya, the monk named Kontanya, he understood. With that understanding, it changed his view, the way he see himself, the way he see the nature around him. He achieved the first level of enlightenment, become the stream entry. So he can let go a certain level of clinging to his body and mind. But the rest, the 4 monks, they still did not get it, what the Buddha mean by this. And then later on, the Buddha gave the second teaching, which is called Anattalakkana Sutra, this one. And then after these 5 monks listen to this teaching, all of them achieved the arahantship. Their mind were liberated. They become arahant. No more defilement left in the mind. So the idea of self and non-self is quite seriously misunderstanding back then. And this is what the Buddha said. What do you think about this, monk? Is the body permanent or impermanent? And the monk answered, impermanent, sir. But is that which is impermanent painful or pleasurable? Painful, sir. But is it fit to consider that which is impermanent, painful, of a nature to change? As this is mine, this is am I, and this is myself. And the monk answered, no, sir, it is not. For us, We may read this many times, but we still don't get it. But for those 5 monks who happen to be the advanced meditator, they understand right away what the Buddha means. With that understanding, or we can call with that right view that the Buddha helped them to develop, they are liberated. The mind let go of all the clinging, that there is no such thing called permanent self in me. So the mind just being liberated from that strong clinging. The reason I mention this because is we're talking about the idea of non-self, and there are places in the Buddhist text that the Buddha talk about the concept of non-self, especially this second teaching, that he explained in detail what he means by non-self or anatta. That's why it's called anatta. Anatta lakkhana. Lakkhana means characteristic of the idea of anatta. Anatta means non-self. Atta means self. That's the teaching that Luang Pi brought it up, so you can perhaps study later on. And this is us, right? We see things oppositely to the way the Arahant being see things. We see impermanent in something that we see permanent in something that impermanent. We see happiness in something that's suffering. We see self in something that's not self. We see something beautiful from something that's not beautiful at all. When we look at this body, we feel like, oh, you are handsome, you're so beautiful. That's how we see it. But there are many cases explained in the Buddhist text that many monks in the past, they said that the body is ugly, its loathsomeness is the cause of disease. There's nothing beautiful in this body. All kind of disease. If you can look through the skin, this is what you see. You see the bone, you see the flesh, you see the blood, you see saliva. It's nothing beautiful. But for us, we still cling on the beauty of the body, male or female. That's how we see it. Our mind is still crowded by lust, by delusion, and by ignorance. And this is example of the idea of the way the Arahant, there is the female Arahant named Wachira Bhikkhuni. She achieved Arahantship following the teaching of the Buddha, and this is how she see life. She see the body and mind. She see the 5 aggregate, and the idea of the word anatta or non-self. She said, just as with an ensemble of the part, just as the word chariot is used, chariot, I don't have the picture of chariot, so I use the picture of the car. So when the aggregate exists, there is the convention a being. So we need to give this a name. We need to call it something. So we call a car, we call a man, we call a woman. It is only dukkha. But for her, it is only dukkha that comes to be. It is only dukkha that stands and falls away. Nothing but dukkha comes to be. Nothing but dukkha ceases. And this is quite deep. This is from seeing, not from intellectually trying to understand what it means by 5 aggregate, what it means by non-self. She actually see it. And that is why when it's come to the idea of 5 aggregate through the lens of Sariputta, through the lens of those Arahant people, male and female monks back then, they see that these 5 aggregates is emptiness, is void, is disease, is loathsome, is nonsense, is there because of the condition. So what it mean by anatta then? And the Buddha give us some criteria to look at. How can we consider this is self or this is non-self? He just explained very simple. He said, body is not self. Now, were this body self? If the body is self, this body would not tend to sickness. And one might get the chance of saying regard to the body. So you can say this, oh, let the body become dust for me, let the body become this for me. In other words, you can tell yourself not to get old, not to get ill, not to die, to remain young, to remain beautiful, to remain handsome forever. If you can do that, that means you can call it self. But if you cannot call this to whatever that you feel like is belong to you, or the idea of not self, right? If you cannot do this, then you need to accept that these things are considered non-self. So in this case, from this particular teaching, to keep it simple, the idea of anatta means that you cannot control. It's uncontrollable. Can you control your body to be the way that you want your body to be? Can you control your car to be like this forever? Can you control your wife, your dogs, your kids? Anything? Can you name just one thing that you have full control over it? 100%. You can challenge the teaching of the Buddha. That, oh Buddha, I have control over this 100%. You think about it. If you can control, then you can consider self. If you cannot control, and then that thing should be considered non-self or not self. And for a bhikkhu means monks, right? All the khanda aggregate. This body and mind are insubstantial. They are not subject to one's control. This teaching found in another place in the Tipitaka, but it's relevant to what we are talking about today. That's the concept of anatta. Why it's called being void, right? In this particular translator, he used the word insubstantial. They are not subject to control. You cannot control. Uncontrollable. If anything you cannot control, then it's not self. And by understanding this, one will be liberated. All conditioned things are impermanent, anicca. All conditioned things are suffering, dukkha. All conditioned things or phenomena or dhamma are non-self. When one see this by wisdom, if you see, then one is weary of suffering. You will be detached from suffering, from dukkha. This is the path to the purities. See refer to eyes. When you have eye, you can see. When you see, you understand. Wisdom refer to understand. Understand the truth, the law of nature. But in this case, definitely it's not the seeing from the physical eyes. Chakku karani lead to yana karani. Chakku mean eye, yana mean wisdom. When you develop chakku, then you access to that wisdom. If you don't have eye, you cannot see. And how can you get that eye? He did not teach you here. He teach you someplace else. But if you see things the way they are, see what? See things the way they are. See conditioned thing as impermanent, keep changing moment to moment. See conditioned thing as suffering, is unsustainable. And see things as non-self or anatta, that means you cannot control. You have no control over it. If you think the way they are like this, you will be liberated from suffering. And the reason we still suffer, we still here, because we don't see things the way they are. That's what it means. So you need to keep on practicing the Dhamma, so one day you start seeing things the way they are. And the benefit of learning this, if you try to put what we learned today into practice, the idea of the characteristic, universal characteristic of all conditioned things. People we love, even ourselves, the car, the house, the buildings, they're subject to change. And nothing much we can do about it. We can prolong, we can delay the changing process by maintaining car, keep changing oil according to the schedule, eat good food, exercise. We can live a little bit longer. That car can use a little bit longer, but we cannot stop this law of nature from happening. It will change. It will collapse. We will be die. The car will be broken one day. So by understanding this, it helps us to not to be careless. It helps us to let go. It helps us to forgive. Whether the people we love, the people we hate, we subject to the same law of nature. It develops sympathy, loving kindness. If someone hurt your feeling, you find a way to let go. Because at the end of the day, whether someone you love or someone you hate, we will have to go to bed. And when we go to bed, we don't know whether we will wake up tomorrow or not, because we subject to this law of nature. It helps us to this passionate, and less clinging on the thing too much. By developing this, put in this practice, into practice, you will have a happier life. You start to apply the law of nature into the realities. All right, that's something that Luang Pi plan to share with you about the idea of the three common characteristics of all things. If any questions, feel free to make a note or type in the chat box. We'll move on to the second topic, the unfailing practice. Unfailing. Unfailing practice or Apannaka Dhamma. Apannaka means a sure course, a sure practice. If you practice these three things, you are surely on your way to be happy. But today I will take you deeper than just what is mentioned in the books. And you may have no idea where this thing comes from. If you study only the book that you receive, the file that you downloaded from our website, they will not mention something like this. And it's difficult to connect the dot. But today I will review the whole process and where these three things fit into the complete process for us to be happy, for us to realize Nibbana. This is something what the Buddha teach the monk. He did not teach the lay people according to this teaching. But in this Apannaka Dhamma, this is what the Buddha teach the lay people. You practice this, you'll be happy. But he omit the full version of the process of how a man can become fully liberated from suffering. Let's see the detail of this particular Dhamma. Unfailing practice. You study Dhamma, you keep in mind, whether you are lay people or a monk, the Buddha point to the ultimate destination of life called Nibbana, a supreme happiness, unchangeable happiness, a sustainable happiness, somewhere over there down the road. But it cannot happen overnight. You need to develop yourself. You need to intensively, day and night, train yourself under the framework of what? We learn the sila, right? We learn the mind and we learn the wisdom. You need to develop yourself according to this framework. They call the 3-4 training. Training, develop the body and the speech, develop the mind, and develop the panya or the wisdom. It's a short version of the Eightfold Path. This is the Eightfold Path, the path to the happiness. As a monk, you can walk faster. You don't have to work. You don't have to take care of your kid, your business. But as a lay person, we still walk down the same path, but it may take longer. You need to be more patient. You need to have make more effort to get there because you have too much worry in your lay life, right? That is why people back then, when they listen to the teaching of the Buddha, they have faith toward the teaching. They decided to leave everything behind and become among all the aesthetics to realize Nibbana at no time, as quickly as possible. So this is the ultimate goal of the holy life, whether you are a Buddhist monk or a lay people. You may or may not aware of it when you become a monk. This is your main job, to study Dhamma and put the Dhamma into practice, and to be specific what it means by practice the Dhamma. To do this, to remove lust, to remove hate, and to remove delusion from your mind. If you can do that, then you realize Nibbana. And how can you do that? In short, you need to observe precept. You need to practice meditation, develop the mind, and you need to develop the ultimate wisdom, right? The Bhavana Maya Panya, the wisdom that come from understanding things the way they are, not just think that I understand. You need to see, you need to realize that kind of wisdom that I mentioned. And today, Pajan Varwood mentioned that beside wisdom, right, the Buddha praised the patient. Patient also hidden here in this Apannaka Dhamma. Okay, we'll take a look in a moment. This is the final destination, the final goal of the holy life, whether you ordain short term or you ordain long term. And this can apply to all Buddhists as well. So the unfailing practice, there are three things. Number one is called the control of the sense. Number two is called the moderation in eating. And number three is called practice of wakefulness. And this is the sutra. It's called Apannaka Sutra from Anguttara Nikaya. You can check it out from this reference. The Buddha said, monks, when a monk has three things, sometimes the same teaching he teach the lay people. Sometimes he teach the monk, but use the same Dhamma topic. But he may give different example, different detail explanation of that particular Dhamma. In Apannaka Sutta, the Buddha talked to the monk and he said, when a monk has three things, his practice is unfailing, and he has laid the groundwork for ending the defilements. What are the defilements? Greed, hatred, delusion. And what are the three? The Buddha said, it's when a monk guard the sense doors, or indriya samvara, indriya samvara, When the monk eats in moderation in eating, or bojana matanyuta, bojane matanyuta. And when the monk is dedicated to wakefulness, or chakriya nuyoko, chakriya nuyoko, in Thai we call chakriya nuyok. Let's give you the Pali terms in case you want to familiar with it. Number 1, guard the sense door. Number 2, eat in moderation. And number 3, practice of wakefulness. These 3 things consider an unfailing practice to have a sustainable happiness, or Apannaka Dhamma. I can stop here and you can pass the exam. That's what it means if you study the Nakdhamma by yourself. But you will learn nothing much. How can you apply sati and sampachanya? How can you apply khanti and perseverance in here? That's how you need to think further. What it means by guard the sense door. Why guarding the sense door make me happy? Why eat in moderation help me to attain nibbana quicker? Why dedicated to wakefulness allow me to develop my mind better? What involved for me to be success in meditation practice? You need to keep on asking yourself, right? And here, this picture may be helpful. Number 1, the Buddha talk about indriya samvara, control of the sense door. Why control of the sense door is important? Why is considered an unfailing practice? To be happy. We learn sati, we learn sampachanya. Today you can put into practice. When you hear the word control the sense door, we contact to the world outside, the outside world, through the sense, right? We have eye to see, we have ear to hear, we have nose to smell, we have tongue to taste, we have body to touch. And when we have contact to the world, this is called contact. When you have good eye, the eye see object. And when the eye see object and you are conscious, your consciousness, your eye consciousness arise, we call chakhu vinyana. When your eye consciousness arise and there is an object and your eye is good, you're not blind, feeling follow. When your ear consciousness, when you have sounds come to your, when you have sound come to your ear and you have ear consciousness, sota vinyana, chakhu means seeing, sota means hearing. When you have that, you can understand what that sounds. It's the sound of the bird, the sound of the dog, sound of someone say something bad, sound of someone say something good. Then feeling. When you feel, you think. If you don't guard your sense door, you keep a chance for the defilement to take control your mind. You can either think good, think bad, or not good, not bad, right? And when you are mindful here in this process, if you are mindful of the thing that you see, of the thinking that's the feeling that start happening, feel good, feel like, feel don't like, then you can stop the elaboration process. There are 2 steps of thinking. The first step is when you perceive. You know this is the car, this is the flower, this is my mom, this is my dad. You think, you know what you see. You think, oh, this is my dad. This is the car. This is BMW. There's nothing wrong with the first level of thinking. But usually there's always a problem at the second layer of thinking when you start to elaborate based on the craving in your mind. Oh, that's BMW. Oh, that's the new iPhone. I want it. When there is the feeling of I want it, then this is the starting point of suffering. You will do your best, whether you have money or not, to buy the car, to buy the phone. But if you are mindful at this stage, you have sati. Remember, sati first, then sampachanya, or the clear comprehension, can start function. This second element, they support each other. We learn at the first week, the sati and sampachanya, the clear comprehension. When sampachanya start function, most likely you make a better decision, not based on the defilements, but based on the right understanding, based on the wisdom. Should I buy it? Should I not buy it? Should I say something bad to him? Should I remain quiet? So if you control your sendor, this is good. You cannot fail when you develop the skill of guarding your sense door. So the craving come from here, come from what you see, what you smell, what you hear, what you taste, what you touch, based on the teaching of the Buddha. Craving doesn't come from the sky, it comes from here. And it goes through these 5 aggregates. If you guard them well, then you can slow or minimize the process of mental formation to elaborate what you see, what you hear. So it doesn't give rise to craving to your mind when you start, seeing thing, something you like or something you don't like. Number two is called moderation in eating, or poshane matanyutta. It sounds simple. To me, this one is one of the most thing to practice as a monk, because sometimes I realize that the moment that we lose conscious, we're not mindful the most is the moment that we eat. Every time we eat, we talk. We don't eat quietly. The monk back then, they don't talk. They eat. When they eat, they don't talk. But when we eat, we talk. So you do two things the same time. And when you eat, your mind with the food that you like, and you reject the food that you don't like, even though you're not supposed to do that as a monk. So Pochanematanyata is not like, it's not just eating good food. It's not just eating delicious food, tasty food. It's more than that. It's how can you minimize greed in your mind when you eat each spoonful of food that in your mouth. When you eat something you like, you feel like, I want more of this. You start chewing fast, swallow fast, and take the second bite, the third bite, and you neglect the food that you don't like. I'm gonna go back to this. When you eat steak, you wanna go back to French fry, go back to Coca-Cola, and when I finish Coca-Cola, I will go for the ice cream. While you have the steak in your mouth, you might thinking of ice cream already as a dessert. So you're not mindful of eating, and that is why you are what you eat. You are what you eat. And Buddhist monk, this is what we chant when we eat. This is what the Buddha teach. This is how the Buddha train us. Wisely, this is panya. A monk who have panya or wisdom will think like this. I use this food not for fun, not for pleasure, not for flattening, making more muscle or beautify myself, but for only for the new nourishment and maintenance of this body, for keeping it healthy, for helping with the holy life. Thinking like this, I shall destroy the old feeling. Old feeling refer to the hungry, right? We feel hungry every day. That's why we eat. So you prevent the suffering that come from being hungry and not produce the new suffering by overeating. You need to have the right amount of food. And thus, there will be freedom from physical discomfort and living at ease. This is the purpose of us eating food each day, breakfast and lunch. Some monks eat one meal a day, some monks eat two meals a day, some monks eat a lot of refreshment or the pana in the evening. Some monks, they don't eat anything. Why do you eat chocolate? Why do you eat ice cream? Do you have to eat it? What the reason behind that eating? So you need to reflect on this. That's why I said this one is difficult. It's considered difficult. Don't take it lightly. And also there's a suggestion. When do you know that I should stop eating? This is the beauty of the teaching of the Buddha. When eating fresh or dry food, one should not be over depleted. A monk should wander mindfully with empty stomachs. See, ideally, monk should eat less. Eat less, it doesn't mean you have to torture yourself being hungry in the evening. Okay? You make sure that you know how much that the body need food and water each day. Taking limited food, 4 and 5 mouthful before you are full, then you drink. That's enough. If you feel like if you take 4-5 more spoonful of rice, then you will be full. Then stop. That means you already full. But the water is still on its way to your stomach. If you stop right then and you take water, then you'll be perfectly full. Enough food in your stomach already. And then you will live in comfort. Next time you eat, why don't you really reflect what you just chant, what you just said? And can you stop eating when you feel like 4-5 more spoonful, I will be full? I think this benefit for both monk and the lay people. We don't even know when to stop. We will stop when we cannot take it no more. Then we stop, right? Because the food is so delicious, especially when someone pay for it. You don't pay for it. Just take as much as you can. So as a Dhamma student, we practice according to the Buddha teaching. Let's see if next time when you eat, you can remind yourself, hey, I just learned this topic. Why don't I put into practice? If it's not important, the Buddha will not list it there to train the monk to achieve or realize Nibbana. They always listed there, whether the short teaching or the long teaching, for the monk to moderate in eating. If the monk cannot understand and cannot practice moderation in eating, that monk cannot realize Nibbana. Why he put it there? And the last one, practice of wakefulness. Here, Sariputta. When a bhikkhu, Sariputta is one of the Buddha great disciple who happened to be the master in wisdom. When a bhikkhu has returned from his alms round, the monk we go out to the village in the morning and people give us food. That's called alms round, and we eat whatever we receive. After his meal, he sit down, he fold his legs crosswise or cross-legged, set his body erect, and establishing mindfulness in front of him. And he said, I shall not break this sitting position until through not clinking my mind is liberated from the tense. The tense mean the tanha or the defilements. Wakefulness is opposite to laziness. If you are lazy, whether you monk or a lay person, cannot go nowhere in life. There's no success overnight if you don't work hard on it. Same thing in meditation practice. There are many monks back then who train themselves day and night, because when someone ordained, that person aim to achieve Nibbana quickly. That's why they leave everything behind. Just like Venerable Jakupala or the blind monks. He made a vow when he entered the rainy season he will not lie down. He either walk, sit, and stand. He practiced meditation like that until his eyes went blind. But he will not stop. Just keep on doing that. And he achieved Arahant in that 3 months. This may sound extreme, but it tells us something. We can learn something from this. We don't have to do this, but we should learn something from this. That laziness takes us nowhere in life. Only people who, when they do something, they do it for real. If you just want to test it out, again, your experience will not same as the person who do it for real. If you feel like meditation is real, is benefit, it can help me to reduce stress, it can help me to realize Nibbana, it can help me to be calm, relax more, then you put your practice, you have discipline, you go forward, no matter how early you have to wake up, no matter how difficult of the situation. It's too hot today, no electric today, no air conditioning, oh, I'll meditate tomorrow, this and that. You start, give yourself an option to be lazy, which is not good. And this is what I found that relevant to this teaching that we learned. You will not find this if you just stick with the elementary level. Okay, we learn guard the sense door, we learn moderation in eating, we learn intent to wakefulness. But in another teaching, the Buddha said, if you practice these 4 things, you close to Nibbana. You are close to Nibbana. In this particular sutra, Aparihaniya Sutra, you close to Nibbana. This is good news. We don't even know what Nibbana is. We don't even know how to get there, how far we can get there, how much effort that we have to do. But the Buddha said, if you develop these 4 things, you are close to Nibbana. Virtuous behavior, this point to Sila, right? Or Patimokha for the monks. There are many rules for us to observe. And then you got the sendor, you need to know what it means. You need to know how to eat correctly and properly. It's something more than that. You need to eat with the mind free from greed, free from anger. Sometimes you get the food you don't like. While you eat, you get angry. Why I don't get, pizza today? Why you give me sticky rice? You keep complaining because you have no choice. You need to, especially if you foreigner, you ordain in Thailand, you walk down to the village, they don't have pizza serve you. You get sticky rice, you get vegetable, you get local food, whatever they eat, they give you. And when you come back to the temple, you eat that food and you keep mentally complaining. I don't like it, I don't like it, I don't like it. That's not the way we practice moderation in eating. Okay, there's some layer into it. So think about it. And then cannot be lazy. A bhikkhu who possesses their 4 qualities is incapable of decline and is in the vicinity of Nibbana. That means you get close to Nibbana every day as you walk down the path. Every single day. Okay. And here what Long P was mentioned earlier. These are the full training for someone to realize Nibbana. But what we learn today, only here. And there must be a reason why. There must be a reason why the Buddha mentioned only these three things to this particular group of audience that he teach. And in some teaching, this also in Maha Asapura Sutta, the Buddha teach the monk, and he go in full detail about how the monk should be trained. You see Sila and Samadhi, Sila, Samadhi, and Panya also here in these 10 items, 10 factors. But what we learn today, the Apannaka Dhamma, or the sure practice that will help us to realize Nibbana or to be happy, also mentioned here. But this is a complete picture where they come from. Okay, and Nibbana are here today. I will not explain all of this, but I just want to show you that there are something else involved in order for us to be happy. And if you are aiming at realize Nibbana, this is the way to go. Okay? In step by step, start from Hiri Ottappa. This is what we learn, right? We learn Hiri Ottappa, but we don't even know they exist here. Shame of doing bad and fear of the consequence of the bad thing that you're about to do, Hiri Ottappa. We learn from the first week. Sati and Sampachanya are here. You see mindfulness and awareness. Sati and Sampachanya also here in the state number 7. But you don't know how they connected, how they related to each other. So this is just the picture that Luang Pi wants to share with you, so you can go back and catch up and go in detail. Check out this sutra if you like. Okay, in Majjhima Nikaya number 39. And these are 4 sutras that I recommend. You don't have to, but if you feel like you want to, you have time, go for it. Okay, the Appabada Sutta, the Paccaya Sutta, and Trilakkhana Sutta. This talk about the non-self. The second teaching of the Buddha to those 5 monks. And the Mahasapura Sutta, the one that's this one, that go in the full detail of how the monk should be trained. What it's mean by the real monk, the real bhikkhu, through the lens of the Buddha. Okay, so we learned some new vocabulary today. We learned what anicca mean, the impermanent. Impermanent also mean rising and falling, moment to moment. And we learned dukkha, where dukkha is not like suffering, general suffering, is being oppressed. It's applied to both living being and non-living being. And we learned the concept of anatta, which today I like. It's just I think more like eye-opening. We haven't touched on the core idea of anatta yet. It's another big topic, but just in this level, let's keep anatta simple as possible. That's anatta point to something that you cannot control, uncontrollable. Okay, so with that, I'm done for today. Hope everyone pick up something that sound interesting to you, and hope this open up your eye to some other area of the Dhamma or the teaching of the Buddha that you can go deeper by yourself later on. Okay, if anything, just drop me the message, the question, then I will find a way to answer to you guys. Wish everyone safe wherever you are. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy. See everyone again next Sunday.